Welcome to the Buildwise Podcast, where we'll explore the ins and outs of building a high-quality, high-functioning custom home that stands the test of time. I'm your host, Jordan Duggan. Each week, we'll meet with builders, contractors, homeowners, and tradesmen to learn the insider tips and tricks you can apply to create homes that are truly a cut above. Whether you want to improve your building process, apply new, high-performance techniques to your next project, or simply learn from the best in the business, the Buildwise Podcast has your back. Let's get started. Welcome to the Buildwise Podcast, where craftsmanship meets conversation. I'm your host, Jordan Duggan, a dedicated high-performance home builder based out of Amarillo, Texas. In this episode, we have the privilege of hosting a true industry expert and a valuable partner in the home building journey.
Thanks, man.
Joining us today is Bradley Graham, the trade account manager for Pella Windows and Doors of Amarillo. Bradley brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our discussion as we explore the world of windows and doors. We'll gain unique insights into Pella's commitment to excellence. Bradley, thanks for joining us.
Man, thanks so much, dude. Appreciate you having me here. I just want to tell you up front, man, I am just completely honored that you would have me as your first guest. And I mean, I know this whole thing is a trial run, but I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. I feel so honored to be here.
I look forward to it. You know, it's something that I think our industry around here needs. We're going to be able to bring a lot of people in here that have a lot of good input. And of course, you were the first one that came to mind.
I appreciate it, man.
It doesn't hurt that we're good friends. So
yeah.
It makes it a little bit easier to do something that's a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, let's do it. So, let's test it out.
So first of all, why don't you tell us about how you got into Pella, what you did before, and kind of your journey into the Pella company.
Yeah, man. I've been in. I'll just give you like all my construction, past. I've been in the construction industry about 16 years. I initially got into. I worked for a high-end carpenter when I didn't know anything. Worked for him for a few years, had my own carpentry business for a few years. And then I got into the roofing and home building industry. I was a superintendent, a roofing superintendent, and then a construction superintendent where we built about 10 or 15 homes a year. And he let me build my own home. And that was what really I got excited about, building homes and
lit the fire.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I loved it. And I was like, oh man, maybe, eventually, however many years down the road, I can start it. Well, it ended up being a lot faster than I thought. And I just went out and started after I worked for him for about 3 years. I started my own construction company. And I was just a general contractor. And I was able to build just a few homes, but I mainly did remodels. And so I had that construction business for about 6 years. So about 16 years total of construction. But while I was a general contractor, I, kind of like yourself, I specifically used Pella Windows and Doors. And it really was because I had a great friend who is now my boss, my manager. But I had a great friend who was working at Pella, and told me about how great the product was, and he wasn't lying. And I actually built his home, and we put obviously Pella windows in there. Built my home, built Pella windows in it, and then he just kind of started all the remodels that I did. I mean, I was just like, I only use Pella Windows and Doors for this reason, and it had to do with the quality and the service and the integrity and so fast forward several years, just the past. I've been in a trade account manager now just for the past 3 years, so where I strictly work with builders and contractors and their homeowners. I don't do the retail side. I'm just strictly builders and contractors, which I love because I was in the contracting and building. I know it a little bit more than just the retail side, but also I just like for me, I personally like the aspect of getting to know, like you said, I like getting to know builders and contractors, and we're not just on one project. It's hopefully years and years and years of projects. Right. And so for me, it's, a real relational thing. And in fact, I would say mainly a relational thing, more than it even is about the product, but that's kind of, past 3 years I've been with Pella, absolutely love it. It's been the best job I've ever had, best culture I've ever been in. So that's where we're at today.
So we'll get into, Pella's values and cultures. You kind of ended on that, but
Yeah.
So you started in carpentry, right? Finished carpentry.
Yeah.
And then went to roofing, and then that's when you started your own business, right?
Right.
What did you like more, trim carpentry or roofing?
For sure, not roofing.
Okay.
It was
okay.
roofing is just a tough business. I mean,
Yeah.
it is those guys. Thankfully, I was just a superintendent. I wasn't I wasn't the guy up there putting the roofs on, but I did have to crawl up and down
Sure.
a few hundred, super tall ladders, enough to know that, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Sure.
Only because, I've got a family, got a wife and 4 kids. And I was like, man, I mean, it's just really anything in the contracting business. I mean, you look at those framers, I mean, there's tons of them that are it's super dangerous. And you usually get hurt. I fell off a ladder, once or twice, enough to know that I didn't want to fall off a ladder again.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I really loved when I was working for that carpenter and had my own carpentry business, I got to work in higher end homes, kind of in the upper end neighborhoods here in Amarillo. So I love, being in those and getting to really change something. And so, yeah.
So when you transitioned from your own construction company, were you doing all your finished trim carpentry?
I would do it some. I had, when I was working for that other company, I got to know enough trades to know that, man, a lot of these guys, they've been doing it for years and years and years. They can knock it out and get it done fast. And that was a little bit of the other side of working for that high-end carpenter is it was kind of like, they would just say, hey, I want this done. And they didn't give us a timetable. There wasn't any budget really. It was just like, and so it was really take your time and use your craft. And the guy that I was working for is just, he's a real genius and artist. And but that doesn't bode well for knocking something out, on the general contracting side when you're under a deadline, you've got to get stuff done. So I met enough guys to know that, hey, let's get these guys in here that are real pros that can get it done fast and have a bunch of helpers. And when I was doing it, especially on my own homes or remodels, I would just really take my time. And so especially if you've got a wife that's like, hey, we got to get this done. She's like, why don't you hire that other guy? So
I've found that I enjoy a lot of those. I enjoy the trim carpentry. I enjoy laying tile. I like.
It's another hard one.
It is
hard on the body.
It's like I can do a great job if you give me all the time in the world and no budget, but but I don't do it enough consistently. Either one of those that it makes sense for me to lead the job on it. So fortunately, we've got some talented tradesmen that we get to use on that.
Yeah,
so.
You're always. I learned about those, especially tiles, or whatever it is. You do it long enough, and you're like an expert by the very end. Maybe not at the beginning, but. It does take that whole period of time to get way better. So
it's something about it to me is a little bit soothing, as long as I don't have that customer saying, "Hey, when's this going to be done?"
We need to move back into our house or have our bathroom, whatever it was. Yeah.
So back into Pella's values and the culture. That's something that as a contractor working with you guys was very apparent to me. Of course, I'm kind of the research guy. Everything that I end up involving into our construction, I like to do a thorough research on it, background on it, learn the history of it as much as I can. It's very evident that Pella is very family oriented and they're very focused on passing that down throughout the whole line of employees.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say of all the jobs, prior to construction, I worked in in the ministry. And even working with different churches, and some churches get a bad rap sometimes, but I would say, oddly enough, the family culture of Pella is what really drew me in. In fact, my manager, we've been really good friends for a long time, but he's worked for Pella now for 15 years, and I think I think the average worker for Pella is like, it's a minimum, it's like 14 years is kind of what, if you, usually it's one of those jobs that when you start working there, you're like, oh my gosh, it's such a good job. And really when I was applying and in that whole process of being hired for Pella, the thing that I really loved was the culture, and that it wasn't so focused, because I am a salesman, but it wasn't so focused on sales. In fact, I remember them saying when I was leaving my training, or one of my trainings, they were just like, hey, go build relationships and everything else will take care of itself. And I was just like, this is my gig. Like, I love relationships. If I can, you've got to have people that want to build relationships. Sure. Now, if you don't want to build relationships and you just want to be a transactional thing, I mean, you can do that too. And sure. I mean, I kind of, we'll talk about that probably more later, but just one of the real things, I mean, like the three, kind of major core values were the quality. They're next year, it'll be a family company that's been around for 100 years and family owned. And you can really tell. Okay. I mean, you can tell that it's been a family operated company. There's families still in the upper leadership. I met, had the opportunity to go and meet one of the CEOs and president, and it's family, and but especially with our branch, our branch is Dallas, Fort Worth, Midland, Odessa, Lubbock, and Amarillo, all of West Tech. We call it all, DFW and West Tech, so that's kind of our branch. But even amongst just all of those people, there is just such a family. I mean, I was talking to people, right before I came in here, just like asking other sales reps who I'm in competition with a little bit, but everybody's so for one another. And I just love that. I mean, it is kind of like, hey, you've got, you need to sell. I mean, that is what the job is. But if you go and build relationships, everything else will take care of itself. So the three main things that I loved were the quality, going to work for a company that really, really cared about the quality. I mean, what they didn't skimp, they're not skimping on. I mean, in fact, going to work for the company that is like above all other companies, considered one of the highest qualities that you can buy. And that feels really good, knowing that it's like we're not giving off some crappy product, that I'm not trying to sell something to somebody that I wouldn't put in my own house. Right. In fact, a lot of the builders, contractors I work for, they put Pella in their own homes, even if they don't sell. Sure. Put a lot of Pella in their other homes, maybe due to budget or whatever it is. But like they'll put it in their own home, and I love working for a company that it's like, and I mean I'm saving right now to put Pella in my current home. Yeah. But quality was the one thing. Integrity was really the other big one, and just that. I mean, during those COVID times, ETAs just got crazy, and everybody was hit by it, but they were just like, no, we're gonna tell everybody the truth. Right. And even if it hurts our sales, and it did, because there were some other companies out there that were saying, hey, this is our lead time. Yep. And we would be like, yeah, this is the actual lead time. And I don't know, they can say whatever they want to. And not to down any other company, but just like I'm looking you face to face, and you're gonna be like, if I tell you, 8 weeks, and then it's like 30 weeks. Yeah. For that, be good for either of us. Yeah. For 22 weeks, you're going to be like, hey, where are my windows at? Windows and doors. And so I love that they were just like, telling the truth always. I've had to, like, there have been several times with clients where I've, messed something up, and I'm just like, well, hey, if it was me, or if it was our product that was wrong, it's on us, and we will make it right. Right. And so, but just standing behind the product, and I think that's why Pella's lasted so long, because they really they make a quality product that lasts forever, but like standing behind the product was a real big deal. And then the relational side of things, they were really focused. I mean, really, really, it's what really drew me in, was how focused they were on relationship. and that relationship above all things. We're not just looking. They're like, you're not just looking to go get a sale.
Right.
Like, that's not the point of the whole thing. The point is to develop relationships so that you can, inevitably have a lot more sales, but you're not just going for one, like, hey, how can I get you in the door, and then just never see you again.
Sure.
And so those are kind of the three things: the quality, integrity, and relationship that I loved initially about Pella.
Sure. So, I wish I would have pulled the stat up, but and you may know it, but our whole family oriented, the employees love that they all work for Pella. They take pride in it. And I think it's like 86%, somewhere around there. And I'm making this number up, but it's up there. 86% of people that work for Pella retire from Pella, which is like a crazy retainage. And it just goes to show, the company's valued and that the employees appreciate working for that company.
And that the company really appreciates them.
Exactly.
I think because when you're appreciated, you and I have both been at places and workplaces where you're not appreciated. Well, you don't want to stick around for very long.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how good you're doing or how bad you're doing. If you're not appreciated, whether you're struggling and need help, or whether you're doing a great job and just needed somebody to say, hey, good job.
Yeah. Attaboy.
Yeah. The appreciation is a big deal.
Yeah. So I tell most of my customers that I'm pretty well exclusively Pella, and then my reason behind it is that I've gotten to form this relationship, and I know that they have a good quality of products, and they have a vast amount of products to pick from. So I've got something to suit every customer, but then to stand behind it, I've got you, right? So if we ever have a question on, hey, can we get this done? Or, hey, we thinking we're wanting to go on a different design on this. You can help guide us with that. And we have this working relationship. It's not let me see if I can get a hold of somebody and see if we can get that done. I don't know if that product exists. I don't know if I can get that information. It's been that relationship base that has really made all this easy. Right. And that's on top of offering a great product. So I don't like straying outside of that for that reason. It makes it really easy for me.
Yeah, and I've appreciated that you've done that for us. So thank you.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but the evolution of Pella's products. They've got a rich history of providing quality windows. How have you seen the company kind of evolve since you've been with them? Is there anything in particular that the changes in demands of the home building industry? When you mentioned COVID, lead times getting a little bit long. Is there anything that y'all have adapted to that you've been a part of?
Let's see. I've got some notes here. Let me check, just go back to these. Oh yeah. You and I, we were talking earlier about how, just like one of the main things that I just want to talk about, like Impervia. Like Impervia is this, it's not a necessarily new line. It's relatively new, but it is our strongest product that we make. And when I first came in, I gave a presentation on Impervia, and I learned a lot. I was at that point learning all this stuff about products, and literally one of the main things that I learned was, for one, in the Amarillo area, it is a buy local product. And I don't know, you can steer me if I'm not quite answering your question right, but for one, it's a buy local product because all the fiberglass, it's a fiberglass product, but all the fiberglass comes out of Owens Corning, which is here in Amarillo. And we actually got to do a tour of Owens Corning. Right when you walk in, they've got a big Pella window when you walk in, and it is kind of like a real proud moment. And when the Pella team was there, and they were just like, hey, we want to show you guys like how this stuff is made, and it is, I would say, I don't know as far as compared to everything, but compared to all the products that we're against, it is one of the strongest products ever made. In that, we've physically seen, we've got team members that here in the Amarillo area have physically seen it take grapefruit size hail and it didn't dent it. This is the frame, not the glass.
Right.
But like the frame of this fiberglass window, it didn't dent it and it didn't scratch it. It definitely didn't shred it like it would most all vinyl products.
Sure.
Or,
even a lot of other fiberglass, like, to be clear, it's a fiberglass window, but
yeah.
I think Pella's got their own proprietary way that this is structured.
Correct. Yeah. And it's like literally 10 times stronger than our like leading competitor. And so that's another kind of pride thing, but it's just like, oh man, they're really putting a lot of stock into, and I mean, I remember when I was able to go up to Pella, Iowa, and they walked us through the design and test lab. And it is just incredible, the things that they're working on. I mean, they're working on everything from like our clad wood products. They've got all the different colors, all the different metals. We've got a couple different thicknesses of metal for lifestyle and reserve, but they've got them under heat lamps at different moisture levels, at different temperature levels. And they're literally saying, how long will this thing last? They're doing all they can to like, what will it take to flake off this or to dent it or whatever it is. And I mean, you go on further, that you and I were talking about a Impervia slider today, and like they literally open and close that thing 100,000 times before to say, hey, if you open this 3 times a day, it'll last 90 years.
Right.
Like they want to put that kind of
research,
information out and research, and like you got to open and close it a that's a lot of time.
That's a lot.
They've got a place where they shoot 2x4s at windows just to make sure that they won't penetrate a certain type of glass thickness. And I mean, they're just doing all kinds. I mean, it's not just like, it's like, hey, here's our great window, and then there it is. They are trying to up the game all the time. So I don't know if that was kind of what you're shooting for.
It does. And to even go off that, interesting story is I was with one of my project managers. We were walking through a big box store to go make the usual quick pickup. And we happened to be walking by some other windows, and I won't mention the name of them, but we're looking at them, it's like, this windows look kind of cheap. And it's like they're saran wrapped. And then when we get our windows shipped into our house, it's like these things are packaged so well, and you can just tell that the thought that's put into that. Well, one, they test that whole shipping process to make sure it's gonna make it to the job site without any kind of damage. But it's impressive that they think that far through the whole end product. Yeah. That even the packaging is superior to everything else.
Yeah, they even had. I mean, I remember walking into a place where it's just like there's this, a packaged Pella product, and it's on what looks like a pallet, and it's just going up and down, like, kind of like it was on a road. And they've got that thing in there for days, days and days and days. And then they'll take it out and they'll say, unwrap it, be like, what damage did it do? Did it do anything?
Right.
I mean, because there's a lot of, you got the argon gas, you've got, all the different, latches and just different types of material that they're testing, whether it's vinyl, fiberglass, clad wood. So they're doing it for all of them. And it is like, how do we ship it? How do we wrap it? How do we ship it? It's just in every area, they're just trying to think of, all those things. Yeah. It seems like.
So you talked a lot about the Impervia windows, and that's kind of one of the new innovations that Pella has come up with. Is there any noteworthy projects that you've done in the last couple of years that really stood out that you were just like, man, that is an awesome project. People need to see this thing.
Yeah, there's been a few, just to name 2 or 3. There was, and it does speak, I think, a lot about to the innovation and like what Pella can fully do. We had a client who the homeowner had an outdoor patio, and which had a fireplace, away from the house, and 2 different openings. And the openings were curved on both sides, and they went into the fireplace. And then it's the shape of a fireplace. But they're like, I want a door here, I want a door here, and everything else to be glass. And so we had to, send somebody from our branch, up from DFW, and we spent hours measuring this thing. And the guy's doing, I don't know if it was, I'm not into all the math, but calculus and trigonometry or whatever it was. But I mean, he was doing all this math on how to get this thing right. And it took us, hours, multiple times of measuring. I mean, we even, just to speak of, sometimes we don't get it right every time,
right,
because it was in a brick. And so some of the curves weren't exactly the same, but we did measure both sides, but we did have to, we got one of the pieces in that didn't fit right. And the client was like, nah. I mean, we were like, that's not going to work. Like, I wouldn't, if it was my house, that was kind of what we think. Like, I mean, that's just the way we think. Like, if this is my house, I wouldn't like it.
Right.
And I feel like that's how you think that way. A lot of builders think that way, but like some don't. They're just like, just put it in. But I mean, we had to, we didn't send it back, but we just sent off for another product and got it to come in. But it was incredible. It had, an operable door and a fixed door with curve. They were curved round tops. Cool. And side lights and a head, a transom. And it was super cool. That was a really cool project that I've got pictures of, that I like to show people. And we had another, one of our Cladwood products, the Reserve series. We've got those multi-slide doors, doors that, they're on different tracks. Well, they wanted a 90-degree angle and into nothing, not into frame, but just the doors to come together perfectly and to be able to, and one of them was 20 feet long and the other one was 15 feet long. So you're talking about 35 feet of doors that have to perfectly, come together. And I mean, it is a lot of thinking and I think they were 10 feet tall but the finished product was just, it was a lot of back because we've got a Pella design, some people up in Pella that do all the design, they work all that math out and that help us. And there's one other one that had it was an office, kind of a man cave that it was had the arch of the roof coming down, but there was a big gap. There was a set of windows over here and a set of windows over here.
Right.
But they also wanted all the grills to line up perfectly. But you're talking about, it was like a 12-foot gap. And so we had to, figure out all that kind of thing. And it just, the ending product looks amazing. What I appreciate about all three of those products was how much, and it's kind of one of the things that you can't really tell somebody until, because if they're just looking at the bottom line, but we've got this whole team of people that is working together to get you what you want. And that was really on all three of those. It took a team. I mean, a huge team of people.
Right. So it wasn't like, here's our set of prints. This is the spec that we want. You guys make this and let us know when it's ready. It's, hey, we kind of have this house built to an extent, and we want you to come here and solve the problem,
right? And
find something that's going to fit what we're actually going for. That's a pretty cool idea. I don't know that there's many companies in any of the different facets of building that are doing anything like that.
Right. And I mean, just to brag on Pella, but I mean, I think that's what you have me here for. Yeah. But it's just like, we've got a brick and mortar store. We've got sales reps. We've got managers and a service team. And, we've got, just so many different, we've got operations and installation. We do our own installation and people have to be licensed. But like, there's just this humongous team of people that are working together to get to the same goal.
Sure.
And it's not just like one dude that's like, hey, go measure this and here's your window.
Sure.
It is like, it doesn't work that way.
So you said you brick and mortar store, you guys have a really cool showroom, right? So you kind of have a display of all the different series of windows for the most part, a couple of doors in there. Is that something that the public can just go in and check out?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, specifically, I work, straight on with builders and contractors, but a lot of times they don't have time to meet with their homeowners, or people are just like, I'm just curious about all the products that you have. And so, we've got this, it's an amazing showroom that we've been in for about a year or so. But you can actually go in and physically touch and operate. They're installed. It's not just like sitting out like, oh, what does this look like on a wall? Well, we've got it in a wall type thing, and all the different products, whether it's vinyl, fiberglass, hung windows, single hung, double hung, casement windows.
You even have some products for some of the nerds like me that like to know.
Hydraulic windows.
Well, I was going to say like a cutaway of the IGUs, the insulated glass units, where you can see the 3 panes, the way those things are detailed, the cutaways from the frame, where you can see how they're insulated, the thermal breaks. You guys really kind of have a whole display for each and every person that would walk in there, and it can show them something that they want to see. Yeah,
and a lot of times, I mean, homeowners especially, they're just like, hey, we've got kind of a, I mean, if they're not one of those that are just like, this is our budget and we can't go above it, which a lot of people are, and we work with that, and or we work with people like, hey, we don't really know like what are the pros and cons of each particular product. Why would I choose this one over that one?
Sure.
And we're able to, builders are able to send them to me. I'm just like, hey, please, like, I love talking to homeowners, and because you can say, hey, this is how long are you going to be in this house? Is this a remodel?
Right.
Because we also, we do replacement. We can do that, or if they're doing just a addition, or if it's a whole new home. Like, where are you at? Like, what is this? Are you wanting this to be? Is this your forever home? This is your one. Like, where are you wanting to go with this thing? So I love when homeowners come in and they're just like, oh, I didn't know that you had that. So. A lot of times they'll see the displays and like, I want that exact thing. That happens over and over and over. So
yeah, you're kind of rolling us into the next question, which is, what would you consider on the design considerations? What types of windows can make a house look modern versus classical? Do you want to give us a brief description of some of the lines that you guys have and what the impacts they have on the appearance of the house?
Sure. There's. And a lot of it is, people are initially mainly concerned about budget.
Sure.
And so if the bottom line is kind of all you're concerned about, I mean, we can help you there. Like, well, if you're just looking for, the least expensive thing, here's where we're at. But if you're kind of like, we don't really know where we're at, I mean, obviously we're able to show them, our vinyl products, which is kind of the entry level, 250 series vinyl products. You can get in hung or casements or awning windows or whatever.
Which are still like the premier vinyl window that you can get in the market.
Great product. I think they're 50% stronger than all other vinyl out there. And it's just obviously the vinyl products, when you're talking about your entry level thing, you have kind of a limited color option. You have limited, I think there's 5 or 6 total colors, and you can get dual tone colors. If you wanted to be black or brown on the outside, white on the inside, but there's kind of that level of product, and then kind of the next level up is the fiberglass. As far as cost wise, is a fiberglass product where they've got that easy slide operator. They're super modern. It's just a more modern product, but it is like the strongest product that we offer. But a lot of people, they're not necessarily concerned with that because of it is only come in one design. It's very 90-degree angles. Right. It's thin, and it's only offered in a few. I think there's 5 total colors of it, and you can get that in a dual tone kind of thing. But if you're wanting to like, hey, I want a more traditional window, this is the kind of home that we're building. You've got your clad wood products where you can do, 52 different, offerings of colors on the exterior. Those are a full frame wood window, and you can get them either unfinished, from the factory, unfinished. You can get them primed. You can get them painted or stained. From the factory, they do that all. If you're doing it from the factory, they do it all before they put the window together. It's super cool because none of the parts, there's no like missing paint, and a lot of people, they want to save some money on their painters, and So you can do that there, but there's just, or you can, I mean, we've had even custom, you can get custom color. Like, here's this, this color orange, this is the color that I want.
Right.
And so we'll send that off to get a sample. They'll send the sample back. They'll say yay or nay. And we'll go, here's your custom color. And so, but those are and then when you get into clad wood products, there's just, I mean, really a million. There's so many different offerings. And so.
Yeah. So what about your doors?
Oh yeah. So doors, I actually love doors. Are so fun because you can come into our showroom, you can operate them, you can, we've got, that quad slider, which is probably one of our biggest sellers. And where it has the two fixed panels on the outside, the two in the middle operate. These are all clad wood products. The multi-slide doors, that you can even get, they can go into the walls and you don't see them when you open them all the way. And as big as you want. Right. I mean, literally, it's just like there's so many different, you can get them, even put a motor on them, get them motorized, open and close, 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 feet tall. And then we've got we also offer fiberglass doors for, just garage door entries, for your typical like pool equipment. So there's all these different lines that are kind of, they offer different things. If you want to get, blinds in the glass, blinds or shades in the glass, if you want to get screens on the doors or even a roll screen, you can come into the showroom and actually operate that, see what it looks like. Look at what the blinds or the shades in the glass look like. Is that something that you're looking for? So I don't know. Is that
did. So so moving on from that, the relationship between builders and suppliers, such as Pella, is pretty important. We kind of touched on this in the first, what that relationship can do and benefit the industry. Do you want to kind of back us up to that and tell us why you think that's important for a builder to have a good relationship with you guys and maybe what your ideal builder would look like?
Yeah, I mean, communications is completely key. I mean, like, I don't know if this is the question we're talking about, but like the relationship between a builder and us, I mean, the builder and the homeowner and the builder and us is, I mean, I think it's vital because you start with plans and then you go from, I mean, that's kind of the entry point. It's like, what are you thinking the budget allows, or what exactly, do you know exactly what you already want? And you can, I get you a quote or get the builder a quote on kind of starting there. But all that communication is like, hey, this color, this, do it exactly like the plans look like, or however it is. And, from that, if, you send your homeowners in, the homeowners communicate with me, maybe you're there, maybe you're not there, but for me to communicate, hey, this is what they said. I'm, taking notes. Sure. This is exactly what they want. They saw something in here that they wanted that they didn't mention to you. Is this out of their budget? Is this in their budget? And that's between you and them. Right. But I mean, the communication it's got to be there the whole time for sure. And then I communicate to you or whatever it is. Right. We just keep going. And then, it ultimately ends up with, if, everything's decided, we decide to you decide to place an order. You're coming in to the showroom. We're putting the plans, how we do, we put the plans up on the big screen and we put the order up on the big screen. Right. And we're going line by line, like, hey, this is what was on the plans. Okay, now here's what's on the order. Here's that line. Check. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Here's what's on the plans. So that there's not a ton of, hey, you missed this or we missed this, or and all the way down to installation. Like if we're installing the product, which we love to do, because then things awry with that opening. It's not like, was it the framer? Was it built wrong? Was it from the factory wrong? It's just all on us. Like what we're trying to do, the goal for me, for you is to take a bunch off your plate.
Sure.
Like how much can I take off of your plate when it comes to windows and doors? Which is just one line item. I mean, it's really one line item, but it's like, hey man, if I can give this line item over to Pella or over to Bradley and Pella, our whole team, and I just not worry. Let's do that. That's kind of the goal that we're trying to get towards.
So let's talk about the installation. There's been some projects that you guys have done the installs for. There's been some that I've done the installs for.
Right.
It kind of just on our end, it kind of just depends on what our schedule's looking like and the availability that we have.
Right.
There's certain projects that we do that we like to do the install just a little bit different, depending on some of the assembly buildups. But what are some of like the warranties that are offered when you guys install versus when I install? Right. What maybe some of the key detail points that you guys do?
Yeah, so a few of the benefits of us installing, obviously we want to install as much as we can. And for that very reason I kind of just stated, like, hey, if there's any problem, like it doesn't matter if it's the window or if it was in there crooked or if it's not opening, whenever we install, it's just kind of like, hey, I want for you to be able to tell your homeowner, hey, just if it's later, just call Bradley or just call Pella or whoever it is because of the warranty. But yes, when we install, on all of our products, whether we install it or not, you get a 2-year service. Labor is free. So that's one of the things I'm trying to communicate to a lot of the builders, like, hey, a lot of these, especially like lumber companies or whatever it is like they don't offer service. They're just selling you the product and they're getting all their margin on everything else they're buying from you.
Right.
And they don't care what they sell to you. But anyways, I'll get to that later maybe. but get 2 years of service. Labor is free. But if we install, you get not an extra, but you get 5 years of an installation warranty. So if there is an install issue, and this isn't like baseballs going through the windows or something like that. This is like if the product was installed wrong and you find that out within 5 years, hey.
Which is a long time because you're usually if there's an issue on the install, it's probably going to rear its head the first severe rainstorm we get or high wind that we get. It's not going to take 5 years, but that's kind of you guys are backing up that service with 5 years because you're that confident in that installation.
And because there are times I know we've had snowstorms around here and it's like, well, we don't get that kind of snowstorm blowing from the north at 60 miles an hour and for, 3 years, 4 years. But it really is kind of like, hey, we are so confident in how we installed this. We're pretty sure you're not going to have any, confident enough to give you a 5-year installation warranty.
Sure.
But then aside from that, if we do the installation, you don't pay tax on the labor and you don't pay tax on the product.
Right.
So in a lot of cases, when it's a really big project, sometimes that tax, because sometimes you could have $2,000 or $3,000 of tax.
Offset in there.
Yeah, it offsets a little bit. You may end up paying a little bit more, but it's kind of like, hey, you're only paying $2,000 for installation versus. Maybe if your framer's installed or whomever it is, and there's an issue, it's just like we're trying to get away from headache, really. And the headache is for you because there's a problem, they're going to call you.
Right.
And so we're saying, hey, no, call us.
Sure.
That is why that line item is like a big line item. Is like, hey, call us.
And you guys have dedicated contractors that you use to install these that have gone to training, right? So do you know much about the training?
They've got to be certified. I know that all our installers have to go through to be certified. It can't just be any installer. We don't just hire any installer. They have to go through a certification process.
Sure.
And a training, this whole training to be certified by Pella. And then when they're in that certification, that means they have to put the window in a certain way. It's got to be, shimmed correctly. It's got to be spray foamed correct, plumbed right. It's got to be spray foamed right. Because, if it's not right, we're going to go to them and say, hey, and there's been those cases, obviously, where things don't get installed correctly. Nobody's perfect. But that is kind of like they're guys that, we probably worked with for a long time.
Sure.
And they've got, I know some of our installers have been doing it for, decades.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So they stick around even.
I've worked with a few of them, and they're absolutely confident in what they do, and they do an excellent job. It's to the point now, which I know this is kind of against every builder's outlook, but it's almost to the point where something's installed and it's like, I know who did that. I don't even need to go look at it. I know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Which is it's just reassuring. It takes a lot of stress off my plate as well.
Yeah, that's good, and that's what the desire is. It's
sure.
Like, hey, if we can take all this off you, that's great.
So advice for builders. For builders who may be considering Pella for their project, what advice would you give them, and how can builders make the most of their partnership with Pella Windows and Doors?
Yeah, if they're considering Pella, I would just say for one, just go for it. If you can get away, because honestly, some of our products, especially our lesser expensive like vinyl products, they're right on par with. They may be a little bit over, but when you're considering the quality of the build and all that, they are just like really, really close. And for the quality and all the service and warranty that you get with Pella, especially with us being here and local, and we're the manufacturer. We're not just some, for instance, I was going to say, for instance, like somebody that offers a bunch of different products.
Right.
They're not the manufacturer. If somebody buys a product from them, they have to go to that person or that store first, and then they go to the manufacturer, which is not us. Right. They're going to the corporate office and saying, "Hey, can you take care of us?" And it's a big, it's just that run around kind of thing. And like if you were to buy something from Home Depot or Lowe's, you're going to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, except for a lot of those products say call the manufacturer. But when you buy it from us, you're actually buying it from the manufacturer, and with the manufacturer warranty, the manufacturer service that you don't get in other places. But I would say the biggest thing that I struggle with is that I was kind of alluding to earlier is that I don't understand is in any other trade, every other trade. Like if you need electrical work, who do you hire?
Right. Yeah, electrician.
For plumbing?
Yeah, the plumber.
For framing?
Yeah, the framer.
Concrete.
It's industry wide, right? Like if you're sick, who do you go to, right? You don't ask your neighbor.
And so my biggest qualm is why would you go to a lumber store for a window? Yeah. And because lumber stores, they sell a variety of windows, and they don't care what they sell you.
And so let's tell everybody who's on new construction, who is commonly installing the windows?
Framers.
The framers, right? So we don't let our framers install the windows, and it's because they are framers. Windows typically involve a little bit more detail. Not that a framer isn't excellent at what they do, but a lot of times
good at what they do.
They do stuff that I can't do.
Right.
But a lot of times that stuff is to the nearest quarter inch, not perfectly plumb and square, right? Not necessarily level. It's not aesthetic at that point.
Right.
It's structural, and it's in and out, and it's this thing's solid, and we're done. Yeah. When you start putting in the intricacies of a window, right? So now you're involved.
Which is one of your biggest investments on the house.
It is. It's a big portion of it, but it's not just, hey, it's a nail fin and here's some nails and let's stick this window up, right? It's you've got a hole in your house now that has to be protected, right? So you've got to keep the water out, you got to keep the air out. It's got to be as insulated as it can be, right? And we want to make sure it's not going to fall out of the hole, be crooked, broken glass, all those things. Yeah. And for some reason, the industry's just dumped it onto the framer. Right.
Typically a company that is like lumber is in their name. It is not windows. I wouldn't want you to come to us and say, "Hey, can you get us our electrical? Do y'all do electrical?"
Right.
No, we don't do electrical. We don't do plumbing. We only do windows and doors. And that is one of the things that I really love about Pella is that that's all we do.
Sure.
And we are, we are experts at what we do. And, but it is a hard to convince if you're only looking at the bottom line and it's like, hey, they offer this wide, array of, you can get this super cheap window or this super expensive window. What do you want? And they really don't care. They're just like, just pick one.
Right.
What color do you want? Okay, these have this color. And but it really frustrates me. You can tell I get a little bit like, man, why would you buy one of the? It is the only thing of a home, the only design aspect of a home that is on the outside and the inside, and it is a major part of the efficiency of your home. You know this because I know how much you research, but like it's a big investment. And so, I wouldn't, I heard somebody say, if I want to buy a Ferrari, I'm not going to go to the Kia dealership.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I'm going to go to the place that makes them and sells them and knows everything about them.
Specifically a Ferrari only dealership. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense that you would go to that specialized industry for that specialized unit, right?
Like you do for everything else.
Everything else.
I mean, it's like, that's what you do for everything else. So,
And I don't know if some of that has come from, just kind of the way America was built, which was just fast and what was available, and those things just kind of evolved into what construction is now. And a lot of it's changing and making good progress. But it's like, houses for a long time were built by Sears and Roebuck. We'll give you the whole kit, and here's your house.
Right.
And now we've got these companies that specialize in each individual product. Well, as a good builder, you should make those choices to go with those companies that are specializing in each individual of those products, so that you can offer your client at the end of the day the best product, the best service, the best value for what they're paying for.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd give you opportunity. You've been out of building for three years now. Do you have any questions for me as the builder coming from Pella? Is there anything that ever comes? And you don't have to have a question. I just figured I'd throw one out there. No,
I think what my question always is for any builder is just like, how can we as Pella, or how can I specifically, and do what we do better? How can we, because the goal is to be a service.
Sure.
And the goal is to provide a great product, to do all this stuff, but like, what are some things that, and you've been actually great to be like, hey, do you guys do this? You should think about doing this, which I really appreciate that, because we really can pass those things along.
Sure.
And sometimes, not all the time, obviously, when you get 1 million requests a year, but like sometimes those things get indoctrinated into what we do. It's like, oh, we never thought about that, initially. But like, what are products or services, things that we could do, or me specifically could do better to serve a builder like yourself?
Yeah, I think that's something that we work on, and we've discussed possibly changing some of the install techniques, for some of our like near passive house air tightness, to change up some of those procedures. We've gotten to work together on. Do you want to tell people how maybe they can either get a hold of you, or what the route to do work through you would be, or also any other route of working with Pella as far as getting windows? How would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, like talking telephone number, email address.
Well, I was going to say the route of, you mentioned you don't work directly with homeowners right now. So what are some of the ways that homeowners would potentially end up working with you?
Yeah, and I say this because it's my business. So like, I have the ability to sell directly to a contractor. Well, a contractor gets a contractor price. They don't get a retail price.
Right.
And So I always say, hey, if you're thinking about doing a project or something like that, because it is different, it is different. But obviously, retail, they offer some things that we can't offer as contractors, like financing. And a lot of times that's why things are, it's just different. It costs different.
Sure.
And they're always they always are offering with replacement. Retail is always offering installation, tearing out the old, putting in the new. A lot of times with builders, it's mainly new construction. But yeah, I would just say, hey, find a friend or find somebody that knows a great contractor like yourself. Get a hold of them and just say, hey, I've got this project, whether it's a one window or it's an addition. It doesn't matter how small the project is. Because I do a lot of quotes for one windows and replacement, but to get a hold of a contractor, get somebody you trust, somebody does really good work, that isn't going to be here and gone, the next year, but get a hold of a contractor and have them, because you can visit Pella.com. It's super easy to visit. They've got huge list of products on there. But we've got our showroom, that's down right off of Soncy, here in Amarillo, in the entrance to the mall behind Dairy Queen. And, that's a great place to start. A lot of people come in there initially, and I've got cards in there, and the guy that's working in there, whomever's in there, can give out our card and say, they usually ask, are you working with, are you just needing new windows for your home, or are you working with a contractor? Because that's the two distinguishing things.
Right.
And if they have a contractor that they're working with, they'll give them my number. And then I can talk directly with the homeowners and just say, hey, who's your contractor? You've got Caprock. That's great. They're awesome.
So in other words, if the clients want to work directly with you, first they need to get on our website and contact Caprock Design Build, and we'll make this connection
for sure.
Otherwise, if they're looking at maybe doing financing through Pella, they can come into the store and contact one of your salesmen in the store. Is that right?
Yeah, we don't have any salesmen that work directly in the store.
Okay.
But if they're wanting just replacement, no contractor, they can come in the store. They'll connect you with who the right path that you're wanting to go. But if you have a contractor or a friend that does contracting, or whoever it is, if they know you, or they whatever it is, they'll connect you to the right spot, because they will always ask, how are you going about this?
Sure.
But I would love to obviously work with you as much as I can.
Sure.
Work with all the builders in Amarillo. That's my market. That's who I work with. So
sure. Well, I think we went over why we choose to work with you guys exclusively, right? We've not only got the excellent product, but we've got the service, we've got the relationship behind it, we've got the warranty, and we've got the workability with the homeowners to make sure that they're getting what they want. Design consultation. You guys are the full package deal and are exclusively in that package deal, right? So constantly trying to improve. I think you're doing an excellent job of it. You guys offer, that family-friendly, high-value atmosphere for the company. I think it's a great company to work for.
Appreciate it, man.
So it's a no-brainer for me to promote you guys every time I get a chance to.
Well, I throw your name out there all the time, so I so appreciate you just having me on, and it's just a real honor to work with you. And I always appreciate getting the opportunity to work with you, because you're so savvy on what you do. What I really love about you, Jordan, is you're super passionate. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're building the homes that you are. Talking about building these passive houses, and even just your normal houses, you're just doing these crazy things. I really appreciate it, because that's who, you only want to associate your name with certain names.
Sure.
You don't want to associate your name with everybody.
Right.
And you are a great Caprock Design Build, great name to be associated with. So I appreciate being associated with you, man.
Thank you.
We'll do it all the time.
I enjoyed having you on the first episode.
I appreciate it, man.
I'm sure we'll have you back, and maybe we'll discuss something different than Windows. I don't know, but
let's do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Until next time, if you guys want to contact us, you can go to caprockdb.com. Our phone number, our email, our Our Instagram, Facebook is all right there. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Caprock Design Build. Follow us, like us, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Buildwise Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our next episode. For more residential home building industry insights, check out Caprock Design Build at caprockdb.com or give us a call at 806-808-1352. Thanks, and see you next time.